Okay. Well, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Citation Management, the third event in the Graduate School's Professional Development Series. My name is Nick Matar. I am the Associate Director of Marketing and Communications in the Graduate School. You may have seen me or heard from me last week in the Building Your Brand on LinkedIn session. Welcome to everybody. Before we begin, just a couple of quick housekeeping things. First off, we have transcriptions running on the bottom if you want to follow along with the captions. And this session is being recorded, so you'll be able to watch it again later. If you haven't done so already, I encourage you to register for some more of our PDS events coming up for the rest of the semester. Next week, we have a really interesting session with Matt Rolling from the Business School. We're going to talk about the importance of personal finance and budgeting. I know I personally am going to enjoy that one, and we'll have some good takeaways given that I have a young family and I'm looking to continue to, better manage my money here as I have a growing family. But please check out the grad school website. We have a whole lineup of events between now and the end of the semester. And as we go later into the semester, you'll see a whole new set of events that will be up for the winter semester as we move into 2022. Right now, all of our events are still virtual. We were originally planning to do one in person in October, but that has since been moved back to virtual. Anybody who has registered for that, that's our Stock Market 101 event, another great session that should be really informative for anybody that is looking to better understand not just their income, but what they can do with that and how to invest. It's become kind of a thing that anybody can do from the comfort of their own home and their phone. But today, we have a very different type of event, one that I consider to really be a necessity for graduate students, both at the master's and the PhD level. And we have a great speaker here today. We have Veronica Bilat. She's our student success librarian. She's a subject specialist librarian in both English and political science. She's a Wayne State alum, also got a graduate degree from the School of Information Sciences, and has an education specialist certificate in learning design and technology from the College of Ed. So a lot of educational experience there from Veronica. She focuses on providing support resources and instruction to help everybody at Wayne State navigate this very complex information landscape. I'm going to turn it over to her in just a moment, but before we do that, Veronica wanted to share a quick poll that we're going to do. So I'm going to go ahead and launch that. If you could please answer these quick 2 questions, really just your current profile as a researcher, and also if you use any citation management apps right now. So we'll give this a quick second. And as people are beginning to fill these out, Veronica, I will turn it over to you.
Okay. Well, great. Thank you so much, Nick. I really am happy to be here today. And I'm really looking forward to introducing everyone to citation management options that you have available to you. And I want to really encourage everyone to start using one, because really making citation management part of your research workflow is how it's going to probably work best for you. So I see that we have mostly graduate students here today, so that's great. And I think that you'll find these to be super useful. Nick, do you mind if I go on to the next question that I wanted to ask?
You should be able to scroll down and you can see it.
Okay. Oh, I see. Sorry, I didn't even notice. All right, so we've got people using RefWorks and Zotero. And then about half of us not using an app. Okay, so that's good. So for some of you who are already using a citation manager, some of the information I'll be sharing will be very much a review of what you may already know. So I hope that you'll find some use or value in most of it. And otherwise, yeah. So what I was hoping to do today is sort of talk a little bit on different topics and related to citation management, do some demonstrations of using a citation manager and what kinds of things they can do. And along the way, I'll stop and give time for questions after each segment. And so if you do have a question, I do also want to encourage you to please put the question in the chat so that we can hold that and ask and talk about that and when we take a little break from the content and address some questions. I really want to encourage you also, when we do take a break and stop, you're also more than welcome to unmute yourself and ask a question. If you prefer to use the raise hand or other kinds of options to indicate that you want to ask a question, that's fine. Whatever works for you, okay? So by the end of today's session, what my goal is to, I'm just going to share the results here so you can see what the results are of the poll. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to talk a little bit about different citation management options and how you might consider making a selection. I'm going to demonstrate Zotero, and there's some reasons that I'm going to use Zotero, and I'll explain why. And then finally, we're going to look at word integrations of a citation manager and the ways that you can use them to integrate and write your paper and do those in-text citations and bibliography at the same time. And then we'll have plenty of time for Q&A at the end too. All right, so let's get started. I'm going to be doing a lot of screen sharing. So I hope that if you have any questions or don't see something, please let me know right away. So I'm going to try to always check in when I change my screen and make sure that you see what I'm seeing. So let's just briefly talk about what citation management applications are. So citation management applications are there to collect and organize your information sources and integrate those into Word, Google Docs, and other document applications as you are writing research papers. There are three main citation application managers that we promote and provide training for at Wayne State. They are Zotero, RefWorks, and EndNote. And they all have similar core functionality. And there's really no best one. They all have some slightly different options available on them that might make them a better fit for you and your own style. The most important thing to know, though, is that you are never stuck with your choice. So if you decide to use EndNote and say, learning curve's too high, I'd rather use something simpler, or you decide to use RefWorks and say, you know what, I really would rather have something where I'm working in a program on my own computer and not just in the cloud. You can always take that file of citations that you've created, and that's called a library, by the way. Every kind of file or compendium of resources that's collected by an app is called a thing. So in Word, they're called docs. In Excel, they're called spreadsheets. In citation managers, they're called libraries. So your library that you create in any citation manager can be packed up, exported, and imported into a different citation manager. They have that compatibility. So don't ever feel like this is my one and only choice. You can always change your mind. So I just wanted to make sure everybody was aware of that. So what I'm going to do first is I'm just going to share a screen really quickly here. And, well, maybe not so quickly. There we go. Okay. So this document here, Nick is going to share in the chat the link to it. And this will just have links of all the things that we're going to talk about today. So we have a guide to citation management applications, and then how-to guides for each of the citation managers. All right, I'm going to change my page here. So I'm hoping everyone right now is seeing a page that says citation and bibliography management applications. It's like a grid. Okay, great. Thank you. So these are questions that you need to ask yourself when you are selecting a citation manager. So first of all, what is the cost? So for EndNote, EndNote has both a desktop and an online version. For full functionality, you would want the desktop version. The desktop version at Wayne State costs $45. It's a significant discount, but there's still a cost associated with EndNote. Zotero is free and RefWorks is free. The type of user. So EndNote Desktop, this is for somebody that maybe works on their own device, collaborates with groups frequently who are also EndNote users, and publishes in multiple journals. EndNote also tends to be the choice of preference if you are someone who is in mathematics, statistics, or other disciplines where specialized annotation is part of your writing. So just a FYI on EndNote. EndNote Online works exclusively in the cloud. So if you also are someone who moves around a lot and really you don't have your own device with you most of the time, you may want to make a selection of working in the cloud, and that would be EndNote Online or RefWorks. Zotero allows you to work on your own device and in the cloud. However, when you are doing your Word, your document processing, like in Word, you need to be working off of your own device. Ease of use. So EndNote Desktop has a moderate learning curve, and especially for their advanced features. So there definitely is a learning curve when you're using EndNote Desktop. EndNote Online is pretty easy to use, but has a multi-step setup. Zotero is easy to use, but also has a multi-step setup. RefWorks is exclusively in the cloud and is pretty easy to use. You create your account and you're ready to go. Here is where you can set up your account from. So that's just some information. So also, what operating system do you need? So EndNote 20 is the current version of EndNote. It is compatible with Windows 10, but it is not recommended for older versions. The web-based, both RefWorks and EndNote Online are independent of a platform. And Zotero works on Macintosh, Windows, and Linux. Do I get tech support? EndNote Desktop has very robust tech support. We have a phone number that's part of our subscription to EndNote, and so you can call them on their tech support line when you need assistance. EndNote Online independently doesn't really have any tech support, although you could probably contact the EndNote tech support. Zotero does not have tech support. Specifically, that's outside of Wayne State. But their online forums are extremely responsive. They have a very strong user community. Zotero is an open source developed citation manager. So they really have actually I'm amazed at how responsive their forum is and how quickly they will actually take care of problems too. And then RefWorks also is a library subscription service that we have. It's free to you, but as part of our subscription, we do have direct tech support. What word processors do they work with? This is sort of important to understand. For example, if you're a Google Docs user, Zotero and RefWorks are good options for you. EndNote Online really only works with Microsoft Word, and EndNote, the desktop version, does work with a lot of different options, but it does not work with Google Docs. Some people really like to work on their mobile devices. So EndNote and Zotero have apps, but RefWorks does not have an app, but you can access it through the browser. Something else you might be interested in is the storage space. So the EndNote Online only, if you don't have a desktop license, has pretty limited storage space. Well, it's 2 gigabytes, so it's not that limited, 2 gigabytes for attachments. Zotero's limit for the free version is 300 megabytes. Having said that, I think their first expanded version is like $20 a year, but the 300 megabytes refers to how much storage it will store in the online backup. So if you choose not to sync your PDF documents that you might save, like your articles, in your desktop version to the online version, you will never hit that 300 megabyte limit. So it's really 300 megabytes is how much storage for documents. And you can hit that pretty quick if you save a lot of PDFs. And RefWorks is unlimited. Cloud backup. All of these, both Zotero and EndNote Desktop have cloud backup. EndNote Web and RefWorks are only available in the cloud, so that's the only version you have available. They all provide for sharing and collaboration with groups. So if you do group projects, that's something that you should know. PDF annotation. EndNote is really one of the only ones that supports that intentionally. The others, you would have to have some sort of app to do that PDF annotation. Having said that, there's still other things available that you can do. Direct import of PDFs is available for both EndNote and Zotero. RefWorks is kind of iffy. It extracts the PDF citation information, and if you load a PDF, it can extract the information. Oh, let's see here. So there's also things about capturing web content. If you are someone who works a lot on the web, and I think this is like people who are in history, public policy, social science disciplines, you may be using a lot of web resources. If that is the case, Zotero is a good option because it not only captures the information off the web page, but it takes a screenshot of the web page automatically and buries it in that citation information, which, noting how ephemeral the web can be, this is a good thing because sometimes your stuff will disappear and at least you have a record of it. Allows offline work. So if you choose RefWorks or EndNote Web, just remember those are cloud-based. If the internet goes down, your citations go down. And again, offline work in your document, that's something else you might want to think about. So if you are working in a document and the internet goes down, you won't be able to access your citations if you use a web-based only or a cloud-based version of a citation manager like EndNote Web or RefWorks. There's find full text options. This is something we'll talk about later. Importing directly. We have an app called Browsine, which I'm just going to make a note to myself because I should show that to you. I didn't even think about that, but as grad students and researchers, you might be interested in that. So that's another app for accessing journals, but you might be interested because it can talk to these citation managers. Journal abbreviations. This is really important if you're in the medical field because most of the time they require journal abbreviations in your citation styles. So the one that is offered in Zotero is a little bit more limited, does Medline format. Global edits. So if you needed to make a global edit in your entire library about something, this is something that's offered. Open URLs, mathematic annotation, which I mentioned earlier. That's why EndNote can be a really good one. Automatic version updates. Actually, this should say yes for Zotero. When you open it up, it'll prompt you if there's an update. And with EndNote, if they get to they're at EndNote 20 right now, if they decide to release a 21, it's likely you'll have to purchase that. And access when you're no longer a student. So for EndNote, the software, you get to keep the software, but there would be no discounts for upgrades. Your EndNote Online, once you disengage from being a student, would revert to something called EndNote Online Basic, and there's information on that. So Zotero would stay the same because it's an open source software that is not WSU supported. And RefWorks would be a yes, as long as we maintain a current subscription to the program, and there's no guarantees that we can continue to do that in the future. So that is sort of like your checklist. That's how the things you need to think about when you're making a choice. And just as an FYI, this citation management app link is on the document that Nick will have shared with you. And that handout, that comparison handout that I just went through with you is right here. So you'll be able to take a look at that. So before we move forward in some demonstration, I'm just going to stop my share for a second here. I'm wondering if anybody has any questions about making a selection or what a citation manager is and can do.
I had a quick question, Veronica.
Hi, Deanna.
Hi, thanks so much for this. If you're thinking about like long-term use beyond just your studies, I guess I'm wondering which one would you recommend? Because obviously technology and things change. So would it be worth the investment, say, even though EndNote is more costly, and it obviously gets upgraded potentially whenever they do another version every year, every other year? Is it worth learning it if you know that you're going to stay in academia, writing papers, things like that, where you want to be able to cite your references pretty straightforward, or because of the learning curve, or maybe, free software that may eventually, like you say, may not stay free, et cetera, et cetera. So I just wondered what your thoughts were.
So this is an interesting question. So my initial response would have been to suggest using Zotero. And just because, frankly, I like its ease of use, and I just like a lot about it. And I like the open source community that's very committed to making it, it's not tied to a company. But having said that, if you're staying in academia, especially if you are in the medical professions, I would suggest maybe thinking about trying out EndNote. And the reason I'm saying the medical professions is because that's the citation manager that they tend to favor, or like hardcore research, and not to say other research is not, but I'm thinking about chemistry or biology, where there's so many journals that have so many weird citation requirements that sometimes like being an EndNote is a good place to start. But yes, Maya, you're absolutely right. Where did your message go? They are compatible. And so starting with Zotero, I think you're absolutely right. That's definitely a pattern. And then the mathematical citations, I would definitely say, if you are in mathematics or statistics and that's your program, I would say starting in EndNote's probably a good idea. Did that help answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. And I think somewhere I saw a raised hand also.
That might be me.
Okay, go ahead, Lisa.
Thank you. I am wondering about the capability of Zotero. You said that it could take a snapshot of the web page that you're researching, which might be good for the type of research that I do. However, I also like the idea that the libraries can have some compatibility or transferability. And I'm wondering if that snapshot could be transferred over to EndNote, for example. Is there any capability to retain that?
Yes, because once that's done, I believe, I'm trying to remember, I think it's a PDF file.
Oh, great.
So it's when it goes into EndNote, it would totally be just a file that gets transferred along with the information from the citation.
Great. Yeah, that's really wonderful to hear. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. And do these compare to DIIGO? I don't even know how to pronounce that. DIGO? And ephemera, I'm sorry, I have no idea because I am not familiar with that at all. So that's something I'll have to look at myself. I'm not sure what that does. Is anybody here familiar with DIGO or use DIGO? Okay. All right. Okay, so I don't see any other questions. Nick, I'm just going to check in with you and make sure I'm not missing anything. All right. Okay. So let me go ahead and I'm going to move on here, and I'm just going to do like absolutely like a little commercial. So I'm hoping that this is going to work for me. I'm going to do a lot of screen sharing and moving things around. So let me know if you're not seeing what I want you to see. So the first thing I'm going to show you is RefWorks. This is what the RefWorks interface looks like. These are would be the citations I have in my library. You can see on the side here, there's places for sharing with a group. There's places for organizing in folders, which is really helpful. In all of the citation managers, the same citation, there's always like a main library where everything sits. So the citations from your main library always stay there, and then you can put them in folders, and the same source can sit in multiple folders. So you don't have to worry. It's like, oh, I need this for this class, but I also am going to need this when I do my quals. You can put that in both folders, and you will always have an all references area. And that's the same across all citation managers. So they have a lot of similar functionality. Tags are also available in all citation managers. It's a way for you to organize your own content. So when you import citations directly out of a database, it'll drag in all the subject headings. So as you can see on this one here, these are subject headings that came from that particular database file, but I could also add my own tags by just coming down here, and I could just add my own in there. So that's kind of nice because you can add your own tags. Let's see here, what else? As you can see, you can click on any citation and you'll see all of the accompanying information. If there's files connected, you'll have those files. You can add your own fields. You can take notes. There's a notes field in here, and you can change your view. So let me just go back here. And again, all of the citation managers let you do this. So right now I have a normal view, but if I wanted to see what this would look like in its citation style, I could select a citation view. And this, for example, is APA. So, and also what happens in many cases is I think all of the citation managers, when you do a citation view, will tell you if elements are missing that would be expected in a citation. So that's important to know also. Citation managers are not perfect, and the information that they're drawing from these other places is not perfect. So you may need to go in and do some cleanup. And so this shows you where that cleanup would need to be done. Now I'm going to move to Zotero. So this is what the Zotero online cloud-based file looks like. And again, you'll see it's got places for groups. It has, just get rid of that. It has a little less functionality in its cloud-based version, but that's because it has a program that you're going to download. But again, it has it has your citations. I'm not sure what's going on. Citations, tags, notes, your attachments. So if you have a PDF attached, you can take a look at it there. This is Zotero is interesting because it has this thing called related. And so you can add files that are related. So you could match things there too. So I find that kind of interesting. And that's a Zotero option. And this is EndNote Web. So EndNote Web is, again, it could be independent. You could just use EndNote Web, or you could connect it to an EndNote desktop. And we'll look at those desktop versions in just a second. Again, you've got your citations that you can take a look at. You've got groups that you can put things in. You can organize materials. You can share with other groups. You can make adjustments, link to the full text, all of that there. All right, so I'm going to stop my share for a second because now I want to show you what the EndNote program, what the programs look like. So let me see if I can share this here. So this is the EndNote desktop program. So this is what you get when you pay for EndNote, which, by the way, you need to do through CNIT, Computing and Information Technology. You would purchase the EndNote software through CNIT, and it would recognize that you are a student, and it would then send you the software download link. Okay, so if you have questions on how to do that, I think there's instructions on the EndNote guide that is linked on the document that was shared with you earlier. All right, so again, this is what it looks like. You see it's very similar to RefWorks, right? There's not a lot of differences here. You can attach files. You can look at a PDF. Let's see if I can find one with an attachment. Here we go. Here we go. So here's the PDF. You can annotate this PDF within here. You can take a look at all of your fields. I could look at this citation. Let's see what we got here. It's been a minute since I've used EndNote, all of EndNote's features, because I'm not an EndNote user. One of the features that EndNote and Zotero have, which is actually, I think, no, only EndNote has this, is oh no, Zotero has it too. Sorry, they just added it recently, is this find full text feature. So what I can do is I can run this find full text feature. So if I imported a bunch of citations, like maybe from Google Scholar or something, I can tell EndNote, find the full text, and it will actually, when I have things set up properly, it includes the library's proxy. It'll go out, see if it can find the full text of those articles and suck in the PDFs and match them to those citations. So that's a nice feature in EndNote. And it also, in Zotero, you have to do it one at a time. But in EndNote, you can do it all at once. So that's really nice. Let's see if there's anything else. A lot of people are interested in this online searching that can be done directly from EndNote. I'm going to tell you right now, it's horrible. I wouldn't advise it. It doesn't work very well. If you want to do good searching, go to the database or resource itself, do that searching and export those citations. And we'll look at how you do that in just a moment. Okay, and then this will sync with your EndNote web. So what's nice about that is that you will always have a backup. And having a backup is really important. So I think anybody who's a graduate student would think, yeah, definitely having a backup of my citations is super important. We're going to stop that share really quick. And now I'm going to go to, okay, Deanna. You know what? I don't remember how to see the citation format in EndNote. I know it's not difficult, but I just can't remember it. I don't want to make anybody suffer through me figuring out how to do it. I thought I remembered, but I don't. That's what I get. It's something I forgot to check before this when I was preparing. And the groups in EndNote are the same as in RefWorks. They're just folders that you've created to organize your citations. So in EndNote, they call them groups. And I think in RefWorks, they call them folders. I think they call them folders in Zotero. And sorry about the citation format. Maybe it'll ring a bell in my head and I'll show you. I'm so sorry. All right, next one. Let's show you Zotero. So this is a Zotero desktop. This is the one that you would download onto your own computer. Again, here's like your folders for organizing. Your My Library has everything. Group libraries in Zotero are when you share out with other people. You can just click on any of these that have a little arrow next to them, means there's more stuff. So here's one of those, Lisa, one of those snapshots of a website. So it looks like I can go to the URL, but if I click the snapshot, you'll see up here, the file it's going to is a storage place on the C drive. So this is actually what the snapshot looks like. And let's see what kind of file this is. It's an HTML file. So readable in a browser, like you could bring up this file into a browser and it'll read it. Okay, go back. I don't know if that page came up now that I think about it, because I'm sharing. Were people able to see it, Bedrock? No, let me.
No, we weren't.
Okay, let me show you that really quick. Sorry about that. The shares aren't quite seamless. And okay, so what happened when I double clicked on that little attachment in the Zotero file is it brought up this page. And up at the top here, you'll see it's finding a file, not a URL. And this is going to a C drive. So this is actually saved on my computer in my Zotero file structure. And it's an HTML file that would be readable in a browser. So that's how those files are saved in Zotero. When you do a screen grab, you don't even have to do it when you save a web page into Zotero. And I'll show you how that works in just a few minutes. All right, I'm going to stop that share and I'm going to share again. Okay, so here we go with Zotero. And we've got our citation information. So if you have an actual article, you can see we've got pretty heavy duty citation information there. And let's see if I can. I think I might have to export to see. I'm sorry, it's just something I completely, totally forgot to do was figure out how to view the citation in its style. These are also, one thing I like about Zotero is like the ease with which you can just grab a citation. So you can, for example, if I click on this with my other mouse button, I can say create a bibliography from the item. And it'll just, I pick my style. I'm sorry, there's a pop-up that comes up that you won't be able to see, but I can just copy it to my clipboard. And then I can open a Word document and paste it in really quick. So there's a really easy way to grab citations, and you could do multiple ones simultaneously. Create bibliography from items. So that's a really easy way to do that. And then in Zotero, what you can do, we had talked about in EndNote how you could find a PDFs. So if you click on an item, there's like this little green arrow here. And you can say locate and then click on library lookup. And it will try to find that item in our library, in the Wayne State Library System. And then it will give you the link to it. Unfortunately, because Zoom doesn't like pop-ups and it brings up a pop-up window, I can't really share that with you, but it'll find it for you if we have it. Let's see here. Stop my share for a minute. Okay. So that's sort of what the interfaces look like and the stuff that you can do in them. And do you have to go through WSU for Zotero? No, Julia, you do not. Zotero is freely available on the web. So you just go to zotero.org and you can download it. We do have a library guide for using it though. There's a full library guide for each of these, and they walk you through that. So in answer to your question, how does it connect to WSU? You need to make some adjustments to the settings and put in our proxy information. And all of that is explained on the setting up Zotero document that you will see in the guide to using it. So let me just show you what those guides look like. Welcome. So I'm going to go back to here. So this was the document that was shared at the beginning with everyone. And Nick, you might have to put that into the chat again, just because, you know, people who joined later might not be able to access that link. So there's these three guides.
Are you talking about the document?
Yeah, the document. I think there were a couple people who didn't have it.
Yeah, for everybody that's just joining, we sent the document out via email, so you'll be able to access it in the email that we sent out right before this, and then also earlier this morning. The only reason I say that is because my computer has crashed and I am on my phone now. So
I'm so sorry.
Just check your email for that. And yes, we will have the recording. I just saw someone asked if the recording will be available. If the recording is ready by tomorrow, then we will be sending it out to you as well. But regardless, you'll be able to access this on the PDS website by the end of the week.
Awesome. Thanks. So these are the library guides to using these three. So for example, here's our guide to using Zotero. And it walks you through everything. So if you follow the, when you get to these guides, whichever citation manager you might select, if you follow the instructions on the right-hand side of the guide, there's sort of steps to get you through it. So there's a getting started page, there's an installing Zotero page, and there's installing EndNote, installing getting to know it. So we try to put in videos that we found that have been really helpful in understanding functionality, how to add and edit references, how to use groups and share, how to create a quick reference list, how to use it with the documentations, getting to the website, and if you need to migrate. And the same thing for RefWorks. So here's our RefWorks guide. And again, it walks you through how to create your account, how to access it, little video on how to use it. And the same with EndNote. EndNote's guide is a little bit more extensive because there is both the EndNote and EndNote web version. So this walks you through that whole process of using EndNote. And I think hopefully they still have their free classes online. Yeah, they have. EndNote actually has classes that they conduct on a variety of different topics, and you can take those classes online independently. Okay, great. So I'm going to take a little break now because I want to, next I'd like to go ahead and give you a sort of a functionality demonstration using Zotero. And you might ask, well, why are you using Zotero? And I'm using it because it's free, because I think it's easy to use. And it's also like open source. So it's something that is not, bound to a subscription or anything else. It's something that everybody can use.
Sir, did you call down to confirm? Could you call down to the office and make sure that they're going to be coming to Mount Sprayer office?
I'm sorry, someone's mic is on. You might want to check that. I don't know whose it is. All right. Okay, so were there any questions before we move forward?
One question.
Yeah.
I've been using Mendeley, which I really like. One of the features that it has is, I guess it's like a plugin or an add-in to Google Chrome, where it's called a web importer, where literally any document that I find on the web, for example, I press this importer and it just grabs it and fills out the citations to the best of its ability, and then I fix them and pulls the PDF if there's one available, for example. Is that a feature that's similar to what EndNote and Zotero and the others will use, or it sounds like they're more specific to a particular database?
Yes, actually, I thank you for asking that, because that's something I should have shown everybody. There's so much. It's like I have notes here what to show everyone, but it can be a little hard to remember it all. So here we go. So the question was, I can just go get stuff and bring it in. So the answer is yes. And you should be seeing a page right now that says how to use EndNote. I'm just going to actually go to the library homepage. So I hope everybody's seeing.
We can't see it.
Okay, let me go back to share. Oh, here we go. Would help if I shared. There we go. So you should see my whole window, including the tabs at the top. Okay. So here's what you were talking about, Lisa. There's all these little plugins and browser extensions that you can use. So for Zotero, it's this one here. This is what lets you save the web page. It'll snapshot the web page. If there's a document, it'll find the document and pull in the citation information. So I'll show you how that functions in just a moment. Then there is the same thing for EndNote. So EndNote will also do that. And RefWorks has this save to RefWorks. So it's a little bit different. I think it's an extension. It's either a plugin versus an extension, or I think it's an extension versus a plugin. And then there's also another EndNote capture that works. So they all have these little apps, bells and whistles that you can use. And Zotero is really nice because when you download the program, it prompts you right away to download the browser extension. RefWorks, you need to actually, like if you decide to use RefWorks, you need to go to the tools And that's where you can find the Save to RefWorks little thing that you can stick on your browser there. And in EndNote Web, I think it's also in the tools.
Thanks so much.
You're welcome. I'm glad that you asked that question. So yeah, we're going to take a look at how that functions in just a second. Okay. All right, let me just double check here and make sure that I've covered the things that we want to so far. And, these tools are extremely powerful. I still, in an hour and a half, I can barely scrape the surface of what's available to you. So what I want to tell everyone here is that, number one, take a look at our guides and really watch the videos. And we've tried to make sure that we select things that are easy to watch. I'm not going to make you suffer through a really bad recording. So they're easy to watch and they help you sort of see more of the nuances of that particular product and the things that are possible for you. And also, please feel free to reach out to me. One of the things I've done in the past is meet with groups of students. If you're in a graduate school that has a graduate student organization, that if you'd like a presentation on using a particular citation manager or even something like this, or would like to just maybe schedule an hour where we could just sort of download it and work together. And if you have questions, I can be there to answer. That I'm happy to do that. So you have my contact information. Please feel free to reach out to me if that's something you'd like to pursue. And I'm happy also to meet with students individually if you want to do something like that and sort of work through how to get it downloaded and use it. So yeah, please know that we're here to help. I'm not an expert. I have, like I always say, I have enough knowledge to make me dangerous in every platform. So there we go. And yes, Christina, the others don't have anything like Zotero's snapshot feature, right? As far as I know, no, they do not. I believe that Zotero is the only one that does that snapshot and actually keeps a file. And then Rubina, you say, is Zotero easier to use than Mendeley? I don't know because I don't use Mendeley at all. And I don't know if Lisa might be a good person to ask about that or explore that topic a little bit with, since she's also a Mendeley user. All right. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, let's see here, I'm going to share my screen. And what I'm going to try to do is show you sort of like how Zotero works from the web. So how do you grab information? Oh, and by the way, one of the things you can do in all three of these platforms, if you got a big old folder of a bunch of PDFs, you can do a bulk load of those PDFs into the citation manager of your choice. If that PDF has been created with metadata or information about that article that the citation manager is able to extract, it will then populate all of that information and create a record for each of those. It's just important to understand that not every PDF has that information in it, especially older PDFs. If there are articles of PDFs that are like, I don't know, like 2010 and before. Oh, you're welcome, Ephemera. Nice to see you. But if those PDFs are like from 2010 or before, the chances that they have that metadata, that extractable data behind them starts to decrease pretty substantially. So you might have to do those manually. One of the things I suggest is if you're just starting off with a citation manager and you've never used one before, just load up all those PDFs, and then any that just like have the PDF file after it can't extract any information, go find them in Google Scholar and export them right to the citation manager. And I'll show you how to do that in just a second. So, and again, that's something where it's like, you know what, I've got this mess here and I just don't know what to do with it to get started. Please feel free to call me and we can work through that on Zoom or face-to-face, whatever works for you, okay? Because getting started can sometimes be the hardest part of using a citation manager. And I don't want you to feel overwhelmed by that process. All right, I'm going to share my screen here. Thanks, Julia. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to just start with a plain old Google Scholar search. So if you don't know this already, I know some of you might be new graduate students to Wayne. You should always start your searching at library.wayne.edu, no matter what you're searching, because we have a Google Scholar link on the library homepage, and using this Google Scholar link is going to connect you to all of the Wayne State materials. So if we have the full text, by using Google Scholar through the library homepage, you'll be able to connect to it. When you're out at home, it's going to prompt you for your access ID and password. I also just want to point out our 24/7 help on our page. There's this little bubble now at the bottom. So if you need to talk to a librarian, you can just click on this bubble and you can talk to somebody 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, no matter what your question is. A lot of times things aren't working or you might not be able to find an article. Please let us help you. All right, so I'm sorry, go ahead.
Could you please share your screen?
Oh gosh. Yes. Thank you so much. All right, here we go. I'm going to go back to where I started. So here we are on the library homepage. And here's our Google Scholar link. Little green button in the corner, which is our Ask a Librarian Help. And I'm going to just go Detroit Urban Agriculture. Wait, how if we spelled it right? There we go. Okay, so here's our search results. So if I were using Zotero, you'll see my little Zotero icon has moved to being a folder. And my EndNote icon has also detected that it can access things here. I don't know what the number 2 means. It might be the number of full text articles it can bring in or something. And Save to RefWorks and EndNote Capture would also work on this page. But I'm going to show you what it does with Zotero. So if I click on Zotero, what you probably can't see is a pop-up window. Can you see a pop-up window? No, right? Okay. So let me just if I can do a new share. Let's see here. Ah, here we go. I learned something. So now this is what the pop-up window looks like. So what it basically has done is grabbed all of the citations off of that Google Scholar page. And it is saying, hey, I found these things. What do you want? And I can select them all, or I can select a few. I'm just going to select a few. Notice some of them have a PDF. So, okay, so I'm going to select 4. And I'm going to say, okay. All right, so that window closed. I need to restart my screen sharing. It's kind of hard to share with pop-ups. Okay. All right, so here is my Zotero. And here's the 4 articles that I just imported. By the way, you can change how these things appear by just clicking on this little icon right here. So you can have different fields appear. I always have the date added appear as a field, and I sort that by most recent. So I can always see when I import something, what's come up, you know, where it is really quickly. Okay, so let's take a look. Oh, this is Kami, one of our people, one of our Wayne State people. She wrote this. I didn't even realize it. Okay, so here we go. So this is a journal article. And I don't see a full text of this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this little green arrow and ask it to do a library lookup for me. And here it says it can find the full text online. And so I'm going to ask it to find the full text of the article. Oh, I'm sorry. Am I not sharing again? Is this being shared? Lisa, can you see it?
The main pages, but not the pop-up.
Okay. So you should be seeing a article that says to allow farming is to give up. Okay.
In the Zotero.
Yeah.
Right.
This is, no, let me go back to Zotero. Let's see here. Oh, thank you, Killian. I will do that. Let me just stop my share really quick. Killian just told me if I share my desktop. You know what, Killian? I don't see an option for sharing my full desktop, even under the advanced.
That's odd. Usually it's like right there as one of the first options, like Yasmin said.
Hmm. Yeah, I'm really sorry if this is driving you all crazy because I'm not seeing an opportunity to share my desktop. I'm sorry. I can share my screen, but that doesn't really, I don't think that's going to work. It might though. Let's see. Let's try this. So right now I'm going to share it and you will probably see the Zoom screen.
I think we see your web browser with all of the tabs along the top.
Oh, okay, good. So then now you should be
this one
seeing
actually should work.
Zotero. Okay, now you should be seeing Zotero.
Yep.
Okay, good. All right, then it did work. Thank you so much. I'm so sorry. Boy, I learned something today. Thank you, Killian. That was awesome. All right, so let's see where we were here. Oh, so what I was trying to do was see if I could get the full text of this article. So I had used this green button to do a library lookup. And when I did that, it took me to this page here, which I could select the full text online, and then it took me to the full text. Now here's the conundrum. The conundrum is I can download the PDF and then connect it to that particular citation that I just imported, or from this database, I could just export this directly to Zotero. Actually, I can't. I would have to do a file. So some exports from some databases work and some do not. Or I could come up here to this my Zotero button, and I could resave this and it'll pull in that PDF. So let me show you that. So I'm going to say save it. It's going to save it to my library. Notice it's saving the file, but it's also saying that it's saving this PDF. So once that comes through here, I don't think it's going to tell me when it's done. Oh, there we go. So it disappeared. So now when I come over here, this full text that it has in the original one that I imported from Google Scholar, the full text is just a link, which is fine, but not necessarily what I want. This one has the PDF. And I can get actually back to that PDF pretty easily. So sometimes you have to do a couple different steps. And again, you'll kind of get used to it. Because it's not a perfect world, unfortunately. So, and then some of these other ones here, this one did bring in the PDF because it was right sitting there in Google Scholar. So the legalizing urban agriculture article, if I go back, see if I can find it, you can see there's a PDF right here that it was able to pull in. So here's the deal with all of the citation managers. The closer you get to the full text, the better the original home of the full text, the better the import will be. So for example, on this article here, I was able to import it and it did okay, but some of these might not have done so well. So what I could do, for example, is I could actually click on the title of the article, or click on the full text at Wayne, actually is what I should have clicked on. And let's see here. Sorry. This is just an article link. It's not a perfect place. Sorry. Let's see how this one works. Okay, here we go. And it's going to download the PDF. Trying to get to the page of this article. Let's see if we can get to that. There we go. So here's where the PDF sits of this original article on this site. So now if I do my Zotero save, it's going to save it with that PDF. So doing that extra click to actually get to where that article is sitting can go a long way. It's usually better metadata. It's easier for Zotero or any of the citation managers to pull in the full text. So I find, you can pull things in from Google Scholar, but I find a lot of times that the data there is not quite as clean. And so you have to do a lot of cleanup in the file. Personally, I'd rather do the extra click and pull in some better data. So that's, it's a trade-off of time. What do you want to do? And if we go to Zotero, you can see there's our PDF. And there's a snapshot of the page. And so, when you sync this is where you run into trouble with Zotero and exceeding that limit for the free version. So what I would suggest is that you don't want to sync those PDFs necessarily, just the citation information. So you always have a backup of all your cited resources, and it'll include the links. So if you go to edit in the Zotero program, that's where you'll find your preferences. And this is well explained in the guide to using Zotero. But this is how you can set up your syncing so that it doesn't sync attachments. And you can save a lot of online memory that way and make sure that and plus syncing attachments takes a long, long time. And I'm not sure what the benefit is, honestly, because again, it might take a little bit of time, but you could always go back and get them. And it's a lot easier now that they've incorporated this library lookup. All right, so we've got, oh my gosh, it's 4:13. I'm sorry, you guys must be exhausted. So let me stop here. And first of all, I do want to apologize for not knowing about that, how to share my whole screen in Zoom all this time, and I've never known that that's what you have to do. And what I'd like to do finally is just show you what an integration looks like in Word, so you can see how they actually function, what the overall benefit is. So before I do that, I was wondering if anybody had any questions that they wanted to ask about, like functionality and grabbing stuff off the web. Okay.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Thanks, Veronica, for this presentation. I've sometimes run into a little bit of trouble trying to grab books. I've found that Zotero, just started using it, very much a newbie, but have begun to kind of understand how to grab articles. But if you are able to speak a little bit about, there are hard copy books that I have that I want to have in my quote unquote Zotero library. And if there's an easy way of doing that instead of just manually entering in all that data into Zotero.
Wow, that's a super good question. And I don't know the answer to that. I would imagine if there is, let's see if, I'm at my library homepage, and I'm going to look at the catalog, and I'm just going to go ahead and do it's late in the day and I'm just not being very creative about finding a book. So I always kind of default to Melville. All right, so let's see what happens if I bring up this book title. And let's see what Zotero can grab from here. It seems to recognize it's a book. Right, let's see what it did. Oh, it looks like it did a pretty good job. So I would say, Bethany, what you could do is just, if you got the time to look up the titles in the library catalog, and then you could just use the little Zotero plugin on that web page. I would also venture, if there are books that we don't have at Wayne State, you could use WorldCat, worldcat.org, which is a worldwide library catalog, and you could look up books there.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. All right, so I'm gonna just go ahead. I'm hoping everybody sees Word right now. So when you integrate any of these citation managers, they're just going to put a little tab in your Word or whatever word processor you're using. So I've got an EndNote one, I've got a RefWorks one. So here's my Zotero one. Yeah, Maya, I'll try it in just a second. So here is, I'm just typing a Word document. I want to add a citation. This is like the new version. I really hate it because you have to remember who you're citing. So I'm going to do the classic view. And oh yeah, here, let me just do that. And that's for books, not, you won't find articles really in WorldCat. So here, this takes me to my Zotero library. I can click on a citation. I could tell it, maybe if I've used like the author's name in the prefacing text, I can suppress the author. I can leave it. I can put a page number if I need to. I'm going to say okay. And there we go. And then I can type some more, and I can add another citation. You could have the classic view come up all the time, and you just do that in your settings. Right? There we go. When I'm ready to look at my bibliography, I can just add it. Here it is. Now notice when I click on these are grayed out. And what that means is this is always talking to the Zotero program. So I cannot make changes here. If I do, they're not going to stick. When I upload my bibliography again, it's going to change it back because it's talking to Zotero. As long as these gray areas are here, these are elements that are talking. So what I really like about Zotero also, and the other citation managers too, is you can unlink the citations. So when you are all done and ready to hand in your paper, or maybe you have a draft that you just want to mess with, or maybe you just want to do your final cleanup, then when you unlink the citations, then you can actually make changes in the document. Otherwise, if I need to change this, I need to actually go to my Zotero and I need to make that change in here. So now if I made that R uppercase for no good reason at all, when I go to my document and edit that bibliography, oh, why didn't you change for me? Oh, he's calling me a liar. Let's refresh it. Maybe that's what I need to do. There we go. So now it brought that capital R in because it's still talking to the Zotero program. And that is the same for any citation manager. As long as you are using that integration with the word processor, it is going to be talking to that original location of that citation, whether it be EndNote, Zotero, or RefWorks. So we are at 420. I hope this was helpful. It's a complex topic with a lot of nuance. So I've tried my best to make it not as not confusing and helpful as possible. So I hope that this helped you sort of see what the possibilities are when using a citation manager. And I hope that you'll make a selection soon and just go ahead and dive in and use one. You're not going to hurt anything by doing it. And there's just so many options that are workable for you. So go ahead and give it a try and see, give any of them a try, whichever one works, you think is going to work for you. So I did have a question about going to look at WorldCat. So I'm just going to do a quick share again. Okay, here we go. And so worldcat.org is the, it's like a worldwide catalog of books. And so here we go. If you are on Wayne State's campus, it might ask you to look at it from Wayne State University, which is great. That's fine. So now let's go ahead and look for grab a Kingsolver book here. Oh, so there are articles in here, and that's not what I want. I want a book.
And please share the screen.
I'm sorry, am I not sharing? I keep forgetting to share. Okay, so here we go. I went to worldcat.org. Thank you, sorry about that. And I just looked for the book Poisonwood Bible. This is a, WorldCat is a worldwide catalog of books. And I'm gonna look for a print book. And here we go. So I click on that and I should be able, as you can see, Zotero turned to a little book. So I click on book. And when I go to my Zotero, there is that book record. So WorldCat is a good place to do that export from also. And I hope that answer, I forgot who asked that question, but I hope that answered that question. Thank you all very much. I really appreciate it. Did the Zotero changes affect all Word documents? Would they change the bibliography in previous reports? If you did not tell Zotero to unlink citations, then the answer is yes, it would change the bibliography in previous reports. So there's a point at which you can tell. It's like when your document is like done and you are no longer wanting to link any, make any changes to citations except maybe some manual cleanup, then you can unlink them. You can link them back together, just an FYI. But if you've made a substantive changes, sometimes that's not completely clean, but you can link them back together. I would not advise doing that on a dissertation, though, or a master's thesis. Any other preliminary papers are fine, but not that final one. And I will tell you that these can get a little sticky if you're sharing documents back and forth and you have citations linked. So you really need to talk to your advisor. It is probably preferable to find some way to share. If your advisor is going to give you feedback on a paper and they get into that, somehow they accidentally get into your citation and start writing stuff or moving stuff around, sometimes that can mess things up. So again, remember, now you've got two systems talking to each other and you've just introduced a third party. So you do have to be careful there when you're doing that kind of stuff. So that's why I like to send an unlinked copy. You can make a copy and send and delink it and send that for feedback so that I don't ever have that combined with my original document that I'm using the citation manager in. Yeah, that can get a little sticky. So just be careful. Thank you very much for all your positive comments, everyone. I really appreciate that. Were there any other, we're at 4:25. So does anybody have any final questions? Maya, you did have a question about, can you copy and paste values below? I'm not sure if I understood what that question meant. So was it answered or did you get what you needed? Okay.
Veronica, can I ask a question?
Absolutely.
So I am in the proposal writing stage for my research, and I am going back and forth with my advisor. And right now I'm old school in it. I got, a computer full of PDFs in different folders like back in the day. So if I determine that using this management tool is helpful, which it obviously is, can you talk a little bit more about like the back and forth between your advisors and them being able, like, is it, I don't know. I don't even know what I'm asking, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and this is one of those things that I've only seen the problem after it happened. And I can't like really go back and sort of unravel like where the issue happened because I wasn't involved in the transaction. But what I have seen is when you've got your document and you're using a citation manager and you share that document with your instructor, if they do a lot of feedback, I've seen this happen when there's comments, when they make comments.
Yeah.
So if they stick their mouse in the middle of a citation that is connected to that, is like great and is connected to a citation manager, and they make a comment, you've got like, it does this, there's a weird thing that happens between those two programs.
Okay.
And that's where I've seen the problem. It's with the comments. So there's, I would say, even having if you do use a citation manager, maybe even having that discussion with your advisor saying, can you please just put the comments at the beginning of the line or something like that, so that you don't, that's where I've seen it, is when they actually insert the comment into the citation that's
Okay.
connected to the manager.
Okay. All right.
That's
That
where I've
makes sense.
seen the problem happen.
Okay. That makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah. You're welcome. Other questions? And thank you for asking that, Julia, because it made me remember exactly what that circumstance was. And it was about comments, making comments.
Yeah,
Word.
it's like left and right, and I hate to put myself in a situation where it's not advantageous to add on at this point. I don't know, but I get
Yeah.
it. Thank you.
Okay, I think we might be all set.
We are.
Well, thank you
I
so
want to
much.
thank everybody for their attention, really. I know this was long and I really appreciate it.
But I think it was definitely useful, that you had some really good tips and a very engaged audience. So thank you to everybody who participated here today. As I mentioned before, I will be sending out not only the recording and the document again, but also a short survey tomorrow to get your feedback on this event. Your feedback helps us with planning our future events. So please look for that in your email. If anything else, please feel free to reach out to us. Veronica, I believe your contact information was on that document. So are you okay with the attendees reaching out to you with additional questions?
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, thanks again, everybody. Have a wonderful rest of the day, and we hope to see you next week for our next Graduate School Professional Development Series event.
Thank you. And thank you, Nick, for your help and support.
Absolutely.
Thank you so
I'm
much,
gonna go
Veronica.
figure out what happened to my computer. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.